Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Trace Elements Radio, live, of course, on Trace Elements Radio and Revolution Radio Studio A. This is live today, and it is Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. We have a lot to talk about. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it today, but I've had enough calls out that we need to be grounded today, dig our heels in. From the questions that I've been asked, I need to give you some history, some backup, because right now, the monitors which pay attention to the atmospheric carbon dioxide, these things are recorded daily. Now, the latest reading in April, 409.3 parts per million. That is a range of atmospheric carbon dioxide content that this planet has not seen for the last, 15 million years. 2016 is poised to see these levels to increase at an exponential rate. Recently, Dr. James Hansen, former NASA scientist, long-time whistleblower about the impending disasters, published a paper with several colleagues showing that this atmospheric carbon dioxide will push sea level rise into exponential levels by the end of the century. Their paper shows how melting is actually compounding itself right now, generally, and generating dramatically fast increases both in the melting and the sea level rise. We may see this, the current 3 millimeter per year sea level rise grow nearly 5 centimeters. They're saying optimistically by 2056. I don't think we have that long, but I'm not a scientist, so I won't make shit up for you. The scientists in Antarctica are now astounded at the rapidly disintegrating massive Antarctic ice shelves. And it turns out that the ice in Antarctica is way more fragile, which, is obvious. The situation is already dire enough that the conservative UN warned recently the future is now. Many people think that the problem is going to be solved by, sucking their thumbs and rocking back and forth. But we've reached a nice agreement, I guess, in Paris last year. But the negative side is we haven't changed any behavior that led up to this. And as if to underscore that point, March global temperatures crushed the 100-year record by the greatest margin that we've seen for any month ever. February, also notably far above long-term average, enough so that scientists describe the months as a shocker, as well as being a kind of a climate emergency, a kind of one. So on the heels of February, we have the Japan Meteorological Agency released data showing that March even hotter. This has been confirmed. Also, March was 1.65 degrees Celsius higher than the 1951 to 1980 March average, while February 1.71 degrees Celsius hotter than February average over that time period. We have seen record-breaking heats in certain places on this planet, especially last month. So March was also the 11th straight month in a row that set a new global temperature record. That's the longest such streak ever recorded on planet Earth. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. So the last 3 months of this year, 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial baseline levels. We were warned 3 years ago via a study conducted by again Henson and several of his colleagues that a 1 degree increase Celsius above a baseline level was far more dangerous and more than enough to cause catastrophic ACD. Atmospheric, Well, another paper said 1 month earlier, shown that the 1.5 was the tipping point for the continuous permafrost to begin thawing. So let that sink in. So while working in Iraq during the initial years of the U.S. occupation there, Iraqis had a saying, "Today is better than tomorrow." It's a reference to how quickly things started deteriorating. So what I'm about to tell you is the same for what's going on. Planet Earth, our home, shows that this is literally shifting the way Earth wobbles. We're wobbling more. We are not straightening out. This is caused by melting ice sheets. Other things. In Greenland, though, in particular, then the Earth's to change Earth's weight distribution, hence influencing our planetary wobbling. We're shaking like a bobblehead. Dance with me now. Now the fact is underscored by 2 more even recent reports that show the entire Arctic is melting much faster than even believed previously. Now, given the increased rate of melting of the permafrost, the Arctic soils are now becoming major contributors to our ever-growing greenhouse gas into the atmosphere. This functions to accelerate the warming. So this is yet another feedback loop. This is a closed system. We have a couple little openings that things can escape, like our Wi-Fi, which has given us more radiation here than on the sun. So let that sink into your head. So meanwhile, the moose are returning to the northern Alaska tundra for the first time since 1880. The moose haven't been seen in the region since then due to overhunting. They are now returning because once again they have ample food for the harsh winter periods due to warmer and longer summers, which is allowing shrubs to grow taller. This is nice for them. As usual, this section of the dispatch, planetary food security, is an issue. In the Philippines, the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration warned that the ACD is now a major threat to their food security. They didn't mention DuPont and the transgenic plastic there, which is why they have so many girl boys. and frogs that you can't tell the difference sexually what they are. Now, not going into that too much today, but thanks to the way in which climate disruption has caused a far more destructive El Nino and El Nina, or Nina, worsening storms, the greater frequency are wiping out food crops on a regular basis, and this is going to get worse. United States, new federal report shows that ACD is making Americans sicker, making Canadians sicker. As a matter of fact, in the last 4 years, the suicide rate on planet Earth, now you know we've talked about what's happening in the northern reserves. It's happening in the north all over the world, like a little circle. Almost like there's something going on there. She says to herself questioningly. Not only are we sicker by 25%, especially in the north, we are committing suicides faster. This will worsen over time. Report shows, again, negative impacts, and they only look at the ACD. They are not looking at the radiation. I'm not talking from the sun or that we're being pelted by aliens, although we may be. I'm talking about what was done here in our closed system that is attacking us. So, the ACD, the frequency war, which is not just about esoteric stuff, it's really happening. All of these cell towers, all of the cell phones, your Wi-Fi, sitting here on the computer with me, the blue light that's being used in exponential numbers on this planet. And people aren't preparing themselves for this. These things are contaminating the food and water more than the food and water are already contaminated. It's making the air dirtier, increasing diseases, especially spread by ticks and mosquitoes, which is one of the reasons why ticks and mosquitoes are being genetically altered. Not just to kill you, although that's a pleasant side effect, because they'd be dead. And you'd probably thinking to yourself, Tracey, we don't need mosquitoes, we don't need ticks. If we want birds, we need those things. If we want to spread seeds on this planet, we need birds. Birds are very important. All animals in this biosphere are very important. We don't know what one species dead means to us biologically. So, this is also causing larger allergy seasons, thousands of deaths due to these increasing heat waves. So another report that's, again, just looking at the ACD, but realize this is a magnificent issue. One thing rolling on top of another. This is the feedback loop of planet Earth. It's placing our microbiomes at risk. Now, microbiomes are formed by microbes in the soil, which play a crucial role in creating healthy ecosystems. But these systems are now disrupted. According to a report, researchers are saying that the planet has been warning us herself. As it warms, biodiversity, which is essential and functioning in the microbial world, could be lost. So distressingly, a recent study shows that the largest group of monarch butterflies on the planet, the eastern migratory population, which represents 99% of all the monarch butterflies on planet Earth, is close to disappearing. As a matter of fact, it may disappear within the next 20 years, unless it rebounds in a dramatic, unprecedented fashion. Two major drivers of this declining butterfly population are the increase in genetically engineered corn and soybeans, which caused a decline in milkweed. So the monarch butterfly's only food source is milkweed. So it's a combo effect. And water. The water wars, which we've been talking about for years, have begun. And there are several shocking developments of this new impact on water. Now, a recent published analysis of 65 years of winter precipitation data from Climate Central shows as the water and the world warms, the meaning of winter has officially changed. Now, U.S., a greater percentage of winter precipitation is falling as rain. Potentially severe consequences in western states, where industries and cities depend on snowpack for water. Now, across the country, wherever there is winter sports kind of economy. Now, group's analysis found a decrease in the percent of precipitation falling as snow in the winter months for every region of the country. Snow, the snowpack itself. You would think it wouldn't matter, right? Because rain is rain, but it is not. Water has, they're saying now 4 states, but it's probably not even close because water is not understood. Not even in our bodies, it's not completely understood what the role of each stage is. But it is very important, or the mother would not have made it so. It wouldn't be here. If water was supposed to be one thing, it would be one thing and that'd be it. So as if on cue, Houston, Texas saw a record-breaking flooding recently, as the 4th largest city in the country found itself in a state of emergency after swelling waters from a deluge claimed at least 5 lives. Nearly 18 inches of rain fell in one day alone. City officials said that waters recorded in one area were a staggering 40 feet higher than any previous thing recorded. Meanwhile, North American ski resorts scrambling to adapt to this change, which of course impacts business, and as they continue to see less and sometimes no snow, they are increasingly offering what they refer to as weather-independent attractions, activities like pools and bike parks and mountain coasters. Meanwhile, the ice continues to disappear rapidly in the north, especially North America. Now, according to a study by experts at the University of Alaska, Fairbanks, and other universities, the 1,500 square mile Juneau ice field, which is the 5th largest ice field in the Western Hemisphere, will lose more than half of its ice by 2100, and it will be gone completely 2200. In the Arctic, for the second straight year, the sea ice has reached a new wintertime record low. Now, given the record-breaking warm summers for that region. It is not out of the realm of possibility that we could see an ice-free Arctic Sea this summer or next. So a recently published study shows that the polar bears are actually losing weight as the Arctic sea ice melts. Less ice means the bears spend more time on land, not eating, as opposed to hunting seals. It's important here what eating fatty fish does to your body. That's why the people in the far north, especially the Inuit, are dying, because they're eating a Western-based food source. There is no fruit up there. Yes, some berries. This may change again, of course, of what we're doing, but know that they are not genetically built to eat friggin' bananas or bread. If something doesn't grow where you live, you shouldn't be eating it. That's it. I don't care if your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents are from Jamaica and there were trees that you could grab and you could eat those fruit trees. Your butt is not there now. And this planet, surprisingly enough, has prepared for such events by giving you cold, because you need cold certain types of year if you're not getting fruit. You need cold, you need fatty fish. There are laws on this planet. We are breaking those laws, and we are going to have to change everything we do. It's why I've been so sick, and I try not to whine about it, guys, but it's killing me what's going on. And it's not me alone. It's all of us. Some people are just not noticing what's going on. I'm like your canary in the freaking coal mine. What's happening to me will be happening to you or your kids. And if you don't notice it happening, I don't know. So at the same time, there's another recent study that found that the melting of the Arctic Sea is forcing a dramatic increase in the number of polar bears having to swim for more than a week without rest in order to find a suitable place or piece of ice to stand on. But if they haven't eaten enough fat, they have no stores in their body. In Greenland, recent studies warn that the rate of ice melting there is likely much faster than previously expected, meaning the sea levels will be rising faster. And it's the far north that is experiencing the most dramatic change. It's what the people of the north have been telling us for over 15 years, that the wobble is increasing, that the skies are different, that they're getting this gray goo, sometimes red goo, sometimes yellow goo, just dropping from the skies. Now, in Greenland's capital of Nuuk, probably said like that, that's how it would be said here, reached 62 degrees Fahrenheit, smashing the April record high by a whopping 6.5 degrees. Inland from there, it was 64 degrees, a temperature that on the same day was warmer than it was in St. Louis and San Francisco. Another report warned that Canada's northern coastline is facing new challenges due to this horrific combo, including storms and floods and erosion and melting sea ice. Melting is happening at record levels in the Antarctic as well, so we go to the bottom of the Earth. The Western Antarctic ice shell, the shelf, undergoing an ice loss that would double the amount of sea rise in 2100. But I'm sure they're being far easier on this. The entire eastern seaboard, Canada and US, is facing a crisis caused by shoreline sinking from too much groundwater being pumped out, while simultaneously confronted in rising sea levels, according to just the April study. Another recent one shows that the sea level rise is happening faster than it has for at least 27 centuries. Meanwhile, the drought continues to plague many parts of this planet. In the United States, most obviously California, where the ongoing drought, which many scientists are already explaining as the beginning of a multi-decade mega drought, saw the majority of the state's major water resources and reservoirs at low levels. Even the end of the so-called rainy season, low levels. Now the situation is bad enough that California is looking towards Australia in order to learn how that country dealt with their 14-year drought by doing things like using rooftop water storage tanks, shared showers, recycled toilet water, amongst other water-saving techniques. It's not that they don't want you to capture water, guys. It's because they're trying to store it. There is a reason for what's going on right now. Many reasons. Now in India, power stations have been shutting down for unprecedented amounts of time. No water. Even the Ganges River is seeing a flow receding. A crisis that shows the water situation in India critical, worsening. A recent study found that Asia is now officially high risk, severe water stress. It's estimated that approximately 1 billion people there will be severely short of water by 2050 if their growth, population, and the ACD continue without a radical change in proper water use and planning. Also Asia, the most severe drought in 100 years, has killed thousands of farm animals across Vietnam. Meanwhile, the water, oceans around the planet continue to warm alongside atmosphere. These waters are important. Ocean water is salty. It moves, it creates a charge. It's a charge that we need to survive on the planet. Our brother plants need it the most. If they are not charged, we cannot be charged. And it's not from the eating of plant sources, it's from the breathing of their electrical systems. So off the coast of Australia, this warming has caused the worst bleaching event in the history of planet Earth, in the Great Barrier Reef. The beautiful, magnificent 1,400-mile long reef, single largest living ecosystem on the planet. We could even call it a second Earth, the second mother. It's that important. And this being, is in danger of being lost. Approximately 95% of the entire area is bleached. They're not saying this. That means 95% of it is dead now. The waters do not cool enough to give the reef a chance to bounce back, which it may. The bleached area, which means 95% of the reef, they're not saying this, will die, which has caused local media in Australia to question that if we are witnessing the end of the Great Barrier Reef, what does it mean for us as this event is happening? Recent reports showed that the link between a bleaching event and fossil fuels is clear, and you can't argue with it. And beyond the Great Barrier Reef, another report found scientists alarmed at the frequency in the area of the coral death around this planet, most of which is caused by ACD. A scientist referred to the death of the coral as a horror show, warned that the dying and dead coral reefs may be an indicator of the beginning of the end. Fire, which, oh boy, are we going to be going into today, because I'm watching Canada just go up in flames. Record-setting forest fires. Wildfires continue to blaze across the globe right now. Single largest forest fire in Kansas history raged through that state recently, burning 400,000 acres across 2 states. Local reports showed the Kansas governor declaring states of emergency in at least 5 counties. Across the globe, in Nepal, out-of-control forest fires consumed more than 3.2 million acres of forest in 15 days. 3.2 million. The air? In 135 years of record recording, the United States has officially already experienced its 3rd warmest year to date. NOAA says. So as to underscore that point, the largest U.S. city, Pacific Northwest, Seattle, saw a record temperature on April 18th of 89 degrees Fahrenheit, which demolished the previous record for the day by 4 degrees. Some interesting footnotes to the recent heat record in Seattle include the fact that it was a record 30 degrees above the April 18th daily average of 59 degrees Fahrenheit, which made it the biggest departure from average for any existing record. The new record temperature was even 12 degrees hotter than the average high temperature during the warmest of Seattle's summer-winter days, which occur at least until now, from July to August 16th. July 19th, August 16th, thereabouts. So this new record was also hotter than the hottest day during the September 2011 in its entirety. The record hot day was also part of a 3-day stint of 80 degrees Fahrenheit or above in Seattle in April. Denial and reality. The ongoing Republican presidential debacle, campaigning, means that denial over this is raging. It is at a fever pitch. Presidential candidates like Cruz and the frontrunner, Trump, both vowed to undo several Obama administration policies and the efforts aimed at migrating these impacts. Because you guys don't want to believe what's happening is happening. Meanwhile, former Alaska governor and vice president candidate Palin claimed that this was bogus. It was a myth scientists and policymakers are peddling in order to advance political agendas. So, the sucking thumb and rocking back and forth idea. So also in the denial front, the group Media Matters cataloged the questions asked during the Republican and Democrat presidential debates, found that 1,477 questions asked by various networks. Sorry, my throat's dry. Only 22% of them were about this change, which I know some people who are sitting here, no, the climate's not changing, Tracey. It's false. You know what? Have you gone outside? There's this thing called outside. Get your ass out there and see it. So of all the networks that hosted debates, only the Spanish language network talked about it at all. So back to reality. Recent polling shows the vast majority of Americans are now believing that ACD is real and ongoing, and that the U.S. government needs to do something about it. But unfortunately, the loudest people on this planet are canceling the voice of truth. So, scientists in the global coalition known as Climate Feedback began working together, no matter what the U.S. says, even sorting fact from fiction in the U.S. media coverage. It must be done right now. What we're going to do about this, I don't know, because a recent study shows how unlikely the world is to keep global temperatures from rising above 2 degrees Celsius. Do you remember when they said 1 degree Celsius that's it? Now the temperature stated as the threshold cannot be crossed in last year's climate talks to Paris, because they've already raised it 1 degree. I'm sorry, but they have. So to underscore this, a staggering amount of figures are going on every day. 3.7 barrels of oil are extracted from the mother. 932,000 tons of coal are removed from the earth. 395 million cubic meters of natural gas are removed from the earth. 4.1 million tons of carbon dioxide are put into the earth's atmosphere. (900 or 9,300 people. More people inhabit the earth as of last month. So to round out this month's reality check, recently released data show that greenhouse gas emissions in the United States alone are not decreasing. Rather, they are increasing, as they did in 2013 and 2014. The most recent data is unavailable. We have giant chunks of the Earth's mantle falling off, causing quakes all across the eastern U.S. More are coming. Now, Canada, my home. As we've said before, Alberta, the oil sands, oil projects are Canada's Hiroshima. what's going on now was always going to happen. Canadian rock legend Neil Young took to the road on a mission. In 2014, he laid down the gauntlet on national TV, calling the Canadian government completely out of control. He began his Honor the Treaties tour. His goal was to help First Nations in their fight against the expanding oils, sands, and mining projects, especially in Alberta, but all across Canada. To the government, he said, money is number one, integrity isn't even on the map. It is not now either. Honor the Treaties, series of benefit concerts, Canada, Toronto, Winnipeg, Regina, Calgary, to raise money specifically to support Athabasca First Nations in their battle against a multi-billion-dollar expansion of the oil sands in northern Alberta. 2007, a court challenge to Shell's lease on the Jack Pine mine failed. 2011, it was being appealed, Supreme Court of Canada. The oil sands projects are amongst the dirtiest on planet Earth. Just to extract and process the toxic sludge each day produces more CO2 as all the cars in Canada. Each day. 3 times as much as more efficient methods which exist. The oil is not even going to Canada. It's going to China, where their air quality is already measured at 30 times levels of safety established by the World Health Organization. This is what Canada is all about. And this is, of course, bad PR. Harper, of course, immediately issued a statement saying, no, our environmental laws are rigorous, which has been brought to you by the letters B and S and the number 33. What we are witnessing en fait accompli. You know what this means? Shell, Marathon, Chevron, massively expanding their mining operations about 70 kilometers north of Fort McMurray in Cree territory, which we are going to be talking about extensively in the next hour. Shell's assessment of the projects were that 185,872 hectares of wetlands in the areas will be lost or altered as a result of the mine expansion and other industrial activities. 21 kilometers of the Muskeg River will be destroyed as a result of a mine expansion. This has already happened. There is no river, which might have helped a little bit with the apocalypse we're watching right now. So, when the Conservative government announced final approval, December 2013, Shell stated, smooth sailing, that it had already purchased 730 hectares of former cattle pasture to compensate for this destruction. As a matter of fact, surprisingly, this is in flames maintenant. So, that's Shell's calculation. What about mine? Can someone let the migratory birds know? How about the caribou? You should notify them. Were they notified? Well, they've been officially notified. I don't know about the fish and water. The Athabasca deposit, located within the boundaries of Treaty 8, overlaps the traditional lands of the Dene, the Cree, and the Métis. ACFN, for the longest time, fought the industry and the government to set aside lands for the practice of treaty rights. The Athabasca First Nation elder, Pat Marcel, said that he'd been pushing for 20 years now for consultation at least to happen. Chief Frank Brown, who we had on, was talking about this. Was talking about the horrors of what the water was like up there. So, a dispirited Marcel fears that the expansion will lead to a rush of other mining projects. Already happened, destroying irrevocably what's left of the environment of the North. Now, opposing the tar sands and the Northern Gateway Pipeline project to move oil to British Columbia for export is gaining momentum, building on the Idle No More movements among natives and our brothers and sisters that are non-native Canadians who are haunted by the disastrous fallouts of its mania for money. Fort McMurray was a slow-motion version of what the U.S. did to Hiroshima. Canada was a different place, where values were different, and where we cherished natural surroundings that we were in. It's all peoples, all colors. The campaign against the tar sands are now officially over. Why? Because it's on fire. There were several campaigns against the conservative agenda for natives and non-natives alike, against the energy exports that are stretching from coast to coast. They take our oil and our water, sell it overseas, and then sell it back to us at increased rates. But to do this, they are killing our mother. In Western Canada, the Grassy Narrows Council and Chief Simon Frobisher rejects all of Ontario's plans for another decade of clear-cutting on the Grassy Narrows Foundation, which would destroy little mature forest that remains in New Brunswick. The standoff in the Micmac territory continues at an encampment at Highway 11. So far, it was preventing the fracking of Micmac lands, despite harassment of RCMP. This is why the Micmac are now given legitimacy to calm the natives down. The corporate Goliath, well, that one is Irving Oil, operates Canada's largest oil refinery in St. John, New Brunswick, and has made New Brunswick a company town. All of it, where Irving controls the economy, the media, the lumber, the transportation services. The Micmac Davids are already a legend, as a matter of fact, and Ecuador. Harper's Energy and native troubles are not confined to Canada. An Ontario court recently ruled Ecuadorian farmers and fishermen can seize Chevron Canada's assets based on 2011 Ecuadorian court decision that found it liable for soil and water pollution near the oil wells. It has ruined health, livelihoods of people living in and around the Amazon rainforest. Since then, the victims have been trying to collect that $18 billion in environmental damages and have gotten nothing. Not from our new pretty boy president, prime minister, our Disney prince, nothing is being said about that. A Chevron spokesman said they're going to fight this until hell freezes over, and we'll fight it out on the ice after that. Ecuadorians are also resisting an attempt by a Canadian mining firm to buy up and flatten an entire mountain. I'm not kidding. Wiping out of a village where locals have been mining gold. In a low-tech, relatively environmentally friendly way for 5 centuries. But they're coming in all Darth Vader-y. And it's the subject of a new documentary called Marmato by Mark Greco. Released last year, I think. So I'm wondering, the sympathies that lie far away in Ecuador? Will we ever do anything right? Have we told Chevron to pay up? No. To leave Marmato's villagers in peace? Is there any hope for justice of Ecuadorians from our legal system in Canada? And even the U.S. ambassador to Ecuador 2011 said, I think we should be cleaning up the oil, and the lawyers are telling us not to. And we've got to figure out a political compromise. We've got to figure out a way to get this done. Imagine, Canadian ambassador willing to even say that. Chevron's tar sands assets would go a long way to help the devastation, and its predecessor, Texaco, in Ecuador over the past half century. Hey, that would mean stopping the tar sands, which would let Canada cut its outsized CO2 emissions. As for fracking, putting a stop to that obscenity would be a blessing to everyone except a few very, very rich men. This show of goodwill would be a great way to make peace with Canada's First Nations. Recoup our tattered reputation. It's a win-win-win. And yet, c'est fini. I'll be back in Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Trace Elements Radio, live with Tracey. Okay, before I move on, I've been reminded, don't forget chili. I was asked about chili. Yeah. Chili is... oh. Now, I have a picture. I haven't put this up on the site yet. It says Santiago. Is that Santiago de Cuba or is that Chile? Just send me a note. Anyway, piles of dead whales, salmon, sardines, and clams. Freak weather phenomenon that has been clogging Chile's Pacific beaches in the last several months. Now, last year, scientists were shocked that more than 300 whales turned up dead on remote bays of the southern coast in a series of grim finds. A surge of algae in the water earlier this year choked to death an estimated 40,000 tons of salmon in Los Lagos region, equal to about 12% of Chile's annual production of fish. This month, so this is Chile, not Cuba. Okay, around 8,000 tons of sardines washed up in the mouth of Keku River, and thousands of dead clams piled up on the coast. Chilean authorities have blamed the red tide of algae and banned fishing in the region, putting thousands of fishermen out of work, which is going to add to the problem, of course, but there's nothing else they can do. An entire coast of Chile, cuttlefish have washed up dead too. Various beaches in the center of the country especially closed as specimens of this dreaded Portuguese man-o'-war jellyfish, foreign to the area normally, have also washed up. Now, the El Nino is the most intense in 65 years. The anomalies of this El Nino, which is a disruptive weather phenomenon, comes from warming sea surfaces, which is happening all over the world. The world is not prepared for what's about to happen. Not the drought, not the famine, but you should be prepared. Because it's a big deal. And it's really happening. So, we need to look at Canada's inferno a little closer. Because so much has happened at Fort McMurray. This is also the area where that crazy general was that was raping all kinds of women. Do you remember him? Forget his name right now. It's kind of thrown out of my mind. But a lot of things have happened there. These people have been poisoned for over 20 years. It's also surrounded, this Fort McMurray, Alberta, is surrounded by an apocalyptic conflagration going on now. And most of society right now is notorious for not connecting the dots, which I've tried to bring you to get you ready. This is about what's going on in the Native community. This is what's going on in the world, especially people of the North. This is why I'm sick. This is why you're probably sick right now, knowing it or not. Especially if you live in the North. If you're by the equator, you're probably doing better than most of us. So, rarely does anyone in the government or corporate sector ever correlate, also on media, alternative or otherwise, that ever look at the environmental catastrophes and public health disasters with social behavior. As a matter of fact, all of these entities can almost always be counted on to not accurately determine a root cause for a calamity. So be aware. The out-of-control wildfire, Fort McMurray, is truly apocalyptic event. The photos I put up in the articles in the last couple days capture just what a Fire-mageddon looks like. No one will ever stop and ask the really important question, except for me, and so I'm asking it, so that's a lie. Never mind. Why is this unparalleled cataclysm happening? Why now? Good question, right? And there's a little picture up. Where the oil sands are, where the Peace River oil sands are, where the Cold River oil sands are, Saskatchewan, which I really wanted to go this year. As a matter of fact, there's a place in this area. Well, it's in Saskatchewan, actually. I wanted to go. But I'm not sure how much is going to be left after this. It's important to understand that Fort McMurray is the largest city located in the oil sands and the Athabasca oil sands, also called Athabasca tar sands, Alberta tar sands. That's all the same thing, because I've had some questions. Where's that in relation to the other? That's the same thing, and I have a picture of the three big ones, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going on in the same area. They are large deposits of bitumen, or extremely heavy crude oil, that are located in northeastern Alberta, Canada, roughly centered on the boom town of Fort McMurray. You will see that some of the reports that have come out said Fort McMurray is not in the tar sands. It's away from the tar sands. It is not away from anything. It's in there, surrounded by. So these oil sands, hosted primarily in the Fort McMurray formation, consist of a mixture of crude bitumen, so a semi-solid rock form of crude oil, silica sand, clay minerals, and water. The silica, the clay, and the water were very, very good. Even the bitumen, when it was in solid rock form, is good for the area. The waters had a lot of really healing properties when they're in their natural form. Taking out of their natural form changes it, makes it a poison. So the Athabasca deposit is the largest known reservoir of crude bitumen in the world, the largest of 3 major oil sand deposits in Alberta. So look at the pictures. And of course you can go to traceelementsradio.com. So for those who are uninitiated in this realm of the demons, oil and gas industry, the commercial development of the Athabasca oil sands in Alberta represents the greatest ongoing environmental devastation in Canadian history. Truly, the Canadian people have been truly misled by these oil sands, this oil sand development, these companies which have carried out a wholesale destruction of a unique region of Western Alberta. The topography that has been forever altered, just as the wildlife inhabits have been irreparably destroyed. This is the place where the strange AIDS-like virus first appeared in animals. Now, more importantly, I guess, there seems to be no stopping the whole misguided project until maybe right now. So the next picture is from BBC, shows Suncor Energy and the Highway 63 connecting thereabouts Fort McMurray, and the worst effective area is in red. Okay, so the only remaining question are whether the arsonists, this was said, 100% this was said, I will go into it, are working for the global warmers, or Mother Nature herself, or both. The preceding map, the map I showed you, shows precisely where this fire has burned throughout the entire outskirts of Fort McMurray. And you see it's right in the middle, so it was surrounded by the fire. Why has this inferno hugged the greater Fort McMurray area so tenaciously, making absolutely everyone in this town and you'll hear different numbers, whether it was 88,000 or 70,000. I think it's around 88. But everyone in that red line had to leave. So more importantly, why is this area of Alberta that has had so many problems with arsons over the last couple of years, especially arson fires started by volunteer firefighters? This is proven. Are the firefighting arsonists moonlighting? Unwillingly? Unwittingly, maybe? For environmental groups? Or are they carrying out orders from the agents of the New World Order cabal promoting more global warming? Because this will change the air in Canada. And by that, the world. For this winter, this summer. Now perhaps they're just not happy with the massive tar sands development projects tearing up the land. And 100%, it's been firefighters starting, or at least blamed, for some of this. Now in Edmonton, RCMP arrested and charged a man in connection to a recent rash of blazes in towns, including a fire that destroyed a historic CN trestle bridge. Volunteer fighter with the Mayorthorpe Fire Department, Marshall Mitchell Scallum, who's only 19, faced 18 counts of arson. The fire chief said there was a sense of betrayal on behalf of the members that once they learned one of their own is charged. But what I've been telling you guys in the last little while, and this article doesn't go into, there are things that are happening up in the north that are causing people to react strangely, violently, especially towards themselves. But it may just be affecting people differently, and I will go into that. But the firefighters who start fires, I put up an article called "Look at the Phenomenon: Firefighter Arson." These are heroes, especially guys who work in forests like this. Guys from all over the world who are firefighters drop what they're doing and will sometimes put themselves on a plane to go and help. These are a different kind of men. So if these kind of men are setting fires, which we found, and it looks like the guy wasn't set up, also doesn't look like the man was crazy. There's a reason for it. And serial arsonists are targeting Calgary homes too. It worries neighbors, but I'm wondering if there's something else going on up there that is making people crazy. And again, Wi-Fi. The electromagnetic spectrum that is poisoning people, I think, is affecting people worldwide, but especially north. Now, regardless of who is really responsible for this fire or why they did it, there are strange circumstances which surround this catastrophe. And as usual, there's virtually no possibility of ever hearing the truth. Not from law enforcement, not from government, of what's really happening at Fort McMurray. What happened before, what's happening now. Well, now it's burnt to the ground, so we'll never find out. So it seems that the perps are never caught. Not in Canada. Maybe for a good reason. If the usual suspects are behind this. Now, how bad is it? You know, the stories, headlines tell the story. An entire city forced to flee. A huge evacuation. All the area of the land that I was telling you about is now burnt to the ground. So they're calling this a highway to hell. People fleeing for their lives as this huge wildfire engulfs the main road, threatens to consume all the areas around it. Yes, it's been very dry there. They're one of the places in Canada that has actually had a heat wave. It's been cool here where I live, Ontario. But this isn't just climate change here. This is maybe the mother's last straw. I'm guessing at some of the stuff, so I try not to make things up. I try not to. But there's so many different things happening around that area. Unseasonably hot temperatures combined with dry conditions that have transformed the boreal forest in much of Alberta into a tinderbox, waiting to happen. It's a threat to the immediate area, and see, the west was much drier, so it depends on the winds, of course. And there have been a lot of wildfires. Last year I was telling you about the smoke you could smell almost anywhere in Canada because of this. But it's absolutely strange. I have some aerial shots. The sheer scale of this fire that's already set to be the costliest Canadian natural disaster. Already, it's about $1.6 billion worth of damage. And this unchecked fire, which has now entered its 4th day, by the way, has prompted a full evacuation. Alberta declared a state of emergency. Flames are being kept thanks to a Herculean effort by the firefighters. Even some from Mexico came up on their own just to help. These are the good guys. So it's really difficult for me to wrap my head around a firefighter just burning people's homes. I don't know, unless he saw something else. So now, anyway, it's added that a large portion of this town will be lost. Certain areas within the city that have not burned, it looks like anyway, they will be lost. I'm not sure how they're going to stop this at all. So on Wednesday, there are 1,600 buildings destroyed. Another 19,000 under threat. The industry sources are saying that the bill for insurance alone closer to $2 billion. Now the aerial shots of the sheer scale of this, look at it. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And I don't know how they're going to stop it. Now, the fire in Slave Lake, a small town. It's about 155 miles northwest, the city of Edmonton, led to the destruction of over 300 homes so far, maybe closer to 5. So if you're looking at 4 times that of Slave Lake, the money alone is disastrous, and the loss were limited by the fact that policies do not cover a type of flooding, because they've already gone through that too, that existed. Now the fire is likely to exceed the losses by the Alberta floods that happened in 2013. So these people are already suffering. There is a suffering apocalypse going on right there. I know they're saying it's blamed on global warming. Global warming is an easy way out of this, but there is a combination of things going on. And I know you guys hate it when I say it, but the raging forest fires and the devastating destruction happening in Canada right now, this is a real thing. Now I know more than 80,000 residents have been ordered to flee. 30,000 were ordered to flee, I think, Tuesday. So this is the entire population. Residents were panicked. Highway 63 is the only road in and out. The wildfire whipped up by sudden unprecedented winds on a day of high temperatures worsened dramatically in short time. Many residents were told to flee. This is not HARP. Get that out of your head. This is something completely different. Now the main exit on the city's south side was closed because of the flames. Evacuees were pulling into vehicles fleeing north. North is a native reservation, and I want to step up and say that I am so proud. They opened the doors. So, when you think that there's just hatred up here, there is not. There are native people that live in the town as well, obviously, but the natives just said, come up here, stay with us. So I'm very proud of that. Not even blinking an eye. Now, smoke from the wildfires have raised in the air, and you can see some of the dramatic images of the Fort McMurray from Tuesday. The entire northern Alberta city evacuated. There was only one way out, which is another thing that really bothers me. They were completely cut off from going south at all. And I have an image of the flames from the wildfire along Highway 63. Again, Tuesday, although I have some that I put up yesterday too from Wednesday. And the McDonald Island Park near Fort McMurray, the heart of Canada's oil sands region, flames. Gone. Yeah, they're devastating, eh? So smoke fills the air as people are leaving this, and you can see the image. And when you leave, you feel like you're fleeing your homeland, they said. So you can see the long lanes of traffic on Highway 63 from Fort McMurray, and the fire was moving southwest of Fort McMurray. So it's located in Alberta, as I was saying, and the site is the world's third largest oil reserve. That's on planet Earth, boys and girls. Now the Premier said officials are doing all they can to assure everyone's safety, and they're looking into the possibility of airlift if needed. Anyone with medical issues. People are pulling together for this. Now, Alberta Emergency Management said the flames had burned, again, a number of structures. They're guessing how many. And when you leave, I guess there's an overwhelming feeling with people saying that you will never go back. And that it's absolutely horrifying watching this. So the main road into Fort McMurray is closed at the southern entrance to the city after the flames jumped. It jumped over the road, which can sometimes happen. Fires are weird. I know it's been a couple years, but we had a firefighter who was on, I think it was like 6 years ago. Don't know if you remember that, Two Dog. But he was saying fire moves like it's a living being. So this fire jumped across the road. The only reason why I wouldn't say that someone said it is because too many people saw it happen. Can you imagine driving and then all of a sudden a fire jumps over your head? This is another reason why I'm looking towards Mama did this. So the sands again. Only behind Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. People, of course, had to be dragged out of there, some of them, because they don't want to evacuate. It's your home. I get that. But they were dragged out of there. Anyway, the handout photographs were obtained courtesy of the Alberta Agriculture and Forestry Department. Shows the smoke rising from a heavily wooded area Tuesday. The evacuation of Fort Murray. Largest evacuation ever done in Canada. Now, the oil sands and the camps were pressed into service too to house evacuees as this raging forest fire entered cities. Oil sands projects well north of the community, while the worst flames were in the city. First, officials also evacuating non-essential staff. Now this is at Suncor's plant base, 18 miles away, one of the closest facilities to the city. But to the looks of it, it looks like, to me, that this thing's jumping all over the place. On its own. But, no, I'm not saying that it was started again, because fires can do that. And, I love conspiracy theories as much as the next person, but I'm not sure. Someone may have started it. It really looks like someone did. The information I was going to read to you about that specifically, that's why I kind of sound disjointed, the entire article's gone. So it disappeared. I don't know. I don't know. So, I'll keep my eye out. If we hear more about what's going on there, I will make sure to tell you. But there's a whole bunch of stuff happening on planet Earth right now that is really strange. And at this point, oh yeah, that's right too. Do you remember 2015 that they issued a burning maple leaf coin? Do you remember that? Yeah, I didn't tell anyone. Not about this. I'm sure it was in that article, but thanks for finding that, Lois. Yeah, probably just a coincidence. And I will look into this more because, and the number, because it's 99999% pure. 99.999% pure. Yeah, you turn that down, you got a lot of sixes. So, well, we have time. It will make a lot more sense later. I'm just leaving it here so it'll be available for people who are interested in the code. This is the Oz programming. It's a very extensive document, and I have the complete document on the page. This is the Land of Oz on New York N-I, Zion, Z-N-E-S. The history behind the Wizard of Oz programming is very interesting. It suggests that the Wizard of Oz has an important part in the occult world all along. One of the secrets of the mystery religions, especially the Egyptian Isis mystery religion, was the ability to use drugs and torture to create multiple personalities. The word Oz is known to have been used by its author as an abbreviation for Osiris. He admits this. Monarch victims have the golden penis of Osiris placed into them. The Grimm brothers, who were Kabbalistic Jews, gathered folk occult stories together. Much older stories. Their stories are full of trances and spells and drugs. Sleeping Beauty is put to sleep, and the trigger to wake her up is a kiss on the lips. These are serious hints at the occult world that didn't stop programming people with dissociative states and triggers when the Egyptian empires fell. Instead of using modern lingo such as hypnotize, they would say cast a spell. The spell has just been cast in Canada. Later, Freemasonry, the right worshipful master, would charge, meaning hypnotize, and initiate. The occultist Baum, B-A-U-M, a member of the Theosophical Society, was inspired by some spirit who gave him the magic key to write The Wizard of Oz, the book, which came out in 1900. The book's story is full of satanic activity, satanic thinking, dark images, especially of a little girl. Now, the story is chosen in late 1940s to be the basis for the Illuminati intelligence community trauma conditioned to trace trigger items in their lives. It's about total control of the mind. As a way of enticing the effect on the programming, Marnock's slaves are conditioned to have trigger items in their lives. When the movie was made, Judy Garland, who lived a life touched by the occult and the world's abuse, was chosen to act as Dorothy. Dorothy's later husband, Mickey DeVinco, was a Satanist, proven, and the chief assistant to Roy Radin, a rich Satanist who worked with the Illuminati, who controlled the Process Church, covens which had members, mass murderers like Berkowitz and Monarch's slave, Charlie Manson. Oh yeah, he was one. He was a slave, not a master, although he played the role of a master very well because people still believe it. There are several members of the Carr family also tied in with both DeVinco and Radin's Process Church and the Illuminati. Now, with numerous long-term connections between the Wizard of Oz books and the movie to the highest levels of the occult world, it is not without reason that one can theorize the original series of 14 books had an ulterior motive behind them. Here's the names of the 14 books: Wizard of Oz, The Land of Oz, Ozma of Oz, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, The Road to Oz, The Emerald City of Oz, The Patchwork Girl of Oz, Tick-Tock of Oz, The Scarecrow of Oz, Rinky-Tink in Oz, The Lost Princess of Oz, The Tin Man Woodsman of Oz, The Magic of Oz, Glinda of Oz. The books are still being sold and are being read to children who are being programmed with trauma-based total mind control. The 14 books came out in various editions. The originals came out in 1900s and shortly thereafter. 30s, 40s, 50s, the words were retyped, sent, and given different pages. When working with the survivor, might help to identify the decade, the edition that the slave was programmed in or with, because the pictures and the pages numbered vary from edition to edition. Now, of course, having good pictures is an asset in programming because a child will visualize off of the pictures when building in its internal world. In addition to this, a large Wizard of Oz theme parks were built by the Illuminati to provide places to carry out programming, to reinforce programming, which traps the minds of the monarch slaves. Best example of this, MGM Grand Complex, Las Vegas, as well as theme parks around America, Canada, the world, that all use a Wizard of Oz theme. And you have read Fritz Springmeier's Be Wise as Serpents, as you will know how the Theosophical Society ties with Freemasonry and Satanism and the Lucis Trust. Who is in charge of the oil sands project in Canada? Oh yeah, Lucis Trust owns that shit. So, several famous members of the Theosophical Society. Adolf Hitler, yes, Satanists who practice human sacrifice, who had HPB's book at his side at all times. Mahatma Gandhi, Hindu guru, considered a god by some of his followers. Gandhi, successful within the British, with the British in part because of the Theosophical Society, who he was a member of. So they were buddies. He was not working against these people. So, H.P. Blavatsky, who I speak of often, founder of Theosophical Society, she referred to herself as HPB, was initiated by the Illuminist Mazzini into Carbonarist. It's a form of Freemasonry, illuminated by the Great White Hall in 1856, was part of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor. Spent lots of time with Eddie Lubenati family in Vermont, who were also known as mediums. She was also a member of the occult fraternities, the Orders of the Druids, the adaptive branch of the ancient and primitive rite of Freemasonry, the Hermetic Masonic rites of Memphis and Mizran. She was trained to handle live snakes by Sheikh Yusuf ben Makurzi, the chief of the serpent handlers, and she was hypnotized by occultist Victor Mitchell. To some degree, anyway, from 1866 under his influence. So Alice Bailey, later the head of Lucis Trust, Henry Steele Olcott, important occultist, Elvis Presley, yeah, I'm saying it, guys, monarch slave, also part native. Cree. Surprisingly enough. Now people do say Salagi, but by the look of him, he kind of looks like the Cree who's just taken in the non-native people. And Manly P. Hall, part of this group too, Illuminati programmer, Theta programmer specifically, and at least a Grandmaster within the Illuminati who sat on the Grand Druid Council. Yes, I said Elvis was a monarch slave. Sex slave. Yes, he was. Bought and sold. Anyway, I'll go into that another time. So Frank Baum, a man who wrote the book Wizard of Oz, was a member of the Theosophical Society. L. Frank Baum lived in South Dakota, created the Wizard of Oz book as a fairy tale, theosophical, incorporating the ancient wisdom of the ancient religions. Yeah, I don't think it was about money. It was, and wasn't. The books have so much material from inside the secret world of the Illuminati that few who understand the Illuminati wonder if Baum was an insider. The moral of the book is that we must rely upon ourselves, for we alone have the power to save ourselves. This was part of the official lie of the Satan in the garden. Satan was simply dressed up, same original lie, into a different packaging and distributed worldwide as the most popular American fairy tale. L. Frank Baum explained how he came to write the book. This is his words. It was true inspiration. It came to me right out of the blue. I think that sometimes the great author has a message to get across, and he has to use the instrument at hand. I happen to be that medium, and believe the magic key was given to me to open the doors to sympathy and understanding, joy, peace, and happiness. The Anointed Wizard of Oz. In Baum's time, the head of the Theosophical Society was H.P. Blansky, who is the writer of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Not Thoth, her. She had been putting out her journal called Lucifer. So in other words, I highly suspect Baum knew that the Theosophical Society, what it was all about, that he himself was deeply into this, by what he said in the book The Wizard of Oz. Came out in 1900. It wasn't until 1939 that the movie was made. Next section will cover numerous parallels between the Wizard of Oz material and the occult world, and the occult world's programming. Broken up in 3 sections. Parallels between the Wizard of Oz book and occultism, the Wizard of Oz movie, Illuminati rituals, and C, the Wizard of Oz series of books and the Monarch programming, which, if you've read them, you are one of them. Let's get this straight. If you saw the movie or read the books, you have been programmed. But knowing is half the battle. We die for lack of knowledge, and that's it. If you know, you get a chance. So for readers who are unfamiliar with the occult world, I can't imagine anyone who would listen to me being unfamiliar. But anyway, some of the parallels at first may seem stretched. When one sees how many parallels there are, the occult nature of these books really begins to sink in. The authors could provide the reader with more parallels between sadism and the Wizard of Oz book, but I believe the following will suffice, because several of the parallels are also in the movie. Auntie M is Blavatsky's Mala Prakriti. Mala Prakriti. And Uncle Henry represents HPB's unmanifested logos. It's a character. Now the carnival huckster, later seen as the wizard, is advertising as being connected to the royal families of Europe. Royal families of Europe are secret Satanists from powerful occult bloodlines. Dorothy is brought to Oz by a cyclone. The word cyclone originally was the Greek word cyclion, which means both a circle or the coil of a snake. In other words, the snake takes Dorothy to Oz. Dorothy's three companions represent mental, emotional, and physical bodies that HPB wrote about. Dorothy acquired three companions, just as Theosophy says, we will when we come into incarnation. To quote HPB's, there is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer. There is no trial that spotless purity cannot pass through. There is no difficulty that strong intellect cannot surmount. So, Wizard of Oz, this is the perilous journey, the quest. In the book, The Tin Huntsman, or The Tin Woodsman, it was originally being of flesh, but a wicked witch casts a spell on him. He is kept chopping off parts of his own body, which are then replaced by a tinsmith, until he becomes the first bionic man, with a completely mechanic body. Boy, hasn't the Illuminati been trying to do this one for a while? And, we're starting to see how long this programming's been on. So in step with Wizard of Oz mind programming, the Wicked Witch and the naughty children cannot stand water. They dissolve. So robotic clones are created in the minds of the monarch slaves, which can only be mentally dissolved by mentally placing water on them. Dorothy goes questing in Oz. Theosophists, New Agers, Satanists, etc. go on quests. Oz is shaped like a mandala, with the Emerald City in the center, an impassable barrier, four-sidedness, four symbolic colors, a circle, and the center. Look again at the pictures I showed you of the fire. The colors, the directions given in Oz, may have other symbolic meanings in the occult. For instance, Emerald City is green. Green is the fourth point of the Eastern Star, so Western Freemasonry. Satan's color, by the way. The route that Dorothy follows in Oz is the shape of a T, with its 3 points defining an inverted triangle. The yellow brick road, gold, perfect metal. Gold is considered to be divine, the source of wisdom by the Illuminati. It is why you're taught that the aliens came to get gold. They didn't. So HPB had written, there is a road, steep and thorny, beset with pearls of every kind, but yet a road, and it leads to the very heart of the universe. This is the yellow brick road that Bob, the ossifist, sought to portray in this fairy tale. The book contains a great deal more pearls and adventures on the road than the movie. Okay, guys, I will finish this up Tuesday. Thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging out, and I'm sorry I wasn't with you on Tuesday. Hang with me and take a look at my Facebook page. I'm thinking we should go somewhere next February. Get the hell out of Dodge. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye for now.